To understand how deep this betrayal cut, you have to understand why I was living in that house in the first place. I didn't move back home because I failed. I moved back home because my family failed. 2 years prior, I was living in a beautiful apartment in downtown Austin, Texas. I had a great career in digital marketing, I was independent, and I was thriving. Then, my father suffered a massive stroke. He survived, but he couldn't work his construction job anymore. My mother, who had been a stay-at-home mom my entire life, panicked. They fell 3 months behind on their mortgage. The bank was threatening foreclosure. And where was my older brother Kevin during all of this? Kevin was 30 years old, living rent-free in a friend's converted garage, entirely focused on his music career that had produced exactly $0 in a decade. Kevin was the golden child, the son who could do no wrong. When the bank came knocking, my parents didn't ask Kevin for help. They called me, crying, begging. So, I did what the reliable, invisible daughter always does. I broke my lease. I paid the exorbitant cancellation fees. I moved back into their unfinished, damp basement to help them. I didn't just pay rent. I took over their entire mortgage. Every single month, $2,000 left my account to keep a roof over their heads. But the basement was unlivable. So, using my own savings, I poured $25,000 into renovating it. I put in hardwood floors, drywall, a beautiful modern kitchenette, and high-end stainless steel appliances. I turned their rotting basement into a luxury studio apartment, and for 2 years, I paid their mortgage. I bought their groceries, and I paid their property taxes. I exhausted myself, working 60-hour weeks just to keep the family afloat. I thought I was saving my parents. I thought they loved me for it. I didn't realize I was just building a nest for someone else. The day after I found the eviction notice in the printer, I started paying very close attention. I stopped wearing my noise-cancelling headphones around the house. I started listening. It didn't take long to piece the puzzle together. Kevin had a new girlfriend, a girl named Mia who was 5 months pregnant. Kevin's friend had finally kicked him out of the garage, and Kevin needed a place to live, a place for his new family. I overheard my mother on the phone with him one afternoon while she thought I was at the grocery store. "Don't worry, Kev," she cooed into the receiver. "The basement is perfect for you and Mia. It has that gorgeous new kitchen and all the new appliances. It's basically a private apartment. We'll give Chloe her 30-day notice on her birthday. She's young, she makes good money. She'll figure it out. You just focus on the baby." I stood completely frozen in the hallway. They were going to kick me out to give my fully renovated, luxury basement to my deadbeat brother. They were going to let him live there for free, while I was thrown out to scramble for a lease in the middle of winter. And the worst part? They were going to use the exact day I was born to do it, just so they could get the unpleasantness over with while the whole family was gathered for dinner. A lesser person would have screamed. A lesser person would have kicked down the door and demanded answers. But I didn't scream. I walked silently back out the front door, sat in my car, and drove to the bank. If they wanted me to leave, I was going to leave. But I was going to take absolutely everything that belonged to me. Over the next 3 weeks, I planned my exit with military precision. I didn't change my demeanor. I smiled at my mother over breakfast. I asked my father how his physical therapy was going. I was the perfect, oblivious daughter. Behind the scenes, I was a machine. First, I found a beautiful loft across town and signed the lease. I paid 6 months up front. Second, I called the utility companies. The electricity, the water, the high-speed internet, the premium cable package, all of it was in my name, linked to my credit card, because my parents' credit was ruined. I scheduled all of those services to be disconnected entirely on the afternoon of my birthday. Third, I called a moving company and a local contractor. You see, I kept receipts. When I renovated that basement, I knew my parents well enough to protect myself. The appliances, the $3,000 smart fridge, the washer, the dryer, the high-end oven were all purchased legally in my name. The custom lighting fixtures? Mine. My parents spent their days out of the house, usually at medical appointments or visiting Kevin. So, piece by piece, I started moving my small items out. Clothes, books, electronics. I told my mother I was doing a minimalist purge for my birthday. She actually praised me for clearing up space. 3 days before my birthday, I went to my bank and removed the automatic draft that paid their mortgage. I also cancelled the auto-pay for their homeowner's insurance and the property tax escrow. I cut the financial umbilical cord. I left them floating in the middle of the ocean, entirely unaware that the ship had already sailed. November 14th arrived, my 26th birthday. My parents had insisted on cooking a special family dinner at the house. Kevin and his pregnant girlfriend, Mia, were there. The table was set. My mother had baked a cake. The hypocrisy was so thick in the room I could barely breathe, but I played my part flawlessly. As we finished eating, the mood shifted. My father cleared his throat, looking everywhere except at my eyes. My mother reached under the table and pulled out a manila envelope. "Chloe, honey," my mother started, using her sweet maternal voice. "You've been such a help to us. But with the baby coming, Kevin really needs a stable environment. So, we've decided it's best if you find your own place. This is your official 30-day notice. We need you out by mid-December." Kevin smirked at me from across the table. Mia looked at her nails. I didn't cry. I didn't look shocked. I just slowly wiped my mouth with a napkin, picked up the envelope, and slid it back across the table to my mother. "I don't need 30 days, I said softly. "I'm leaving right now." My mother frowned. "What do you mean right now? You can't just leave tonight, be reasonable." Right on cue, the heavy rumble of a massive box truck echoed from the driveway. The contractor and the movers I had hired had arrived. I stood up from the table. "Oh, I'm reasonable. But since I'm moving, I'm taking my belongings with me." Kevin laughed. "Take your clothes, Chloe. Nobody wants your sweaters." I looked dead at him. "I'm taking the fridge, the oven, the washer, the dryer, the custom lighting, the smart thermostat, and the security system." The colour drained from my father's face. "You can't do that. We need those." "You didn't buy them," I replied, pulling a thick folder out of my bag and dropping it on the table. "Here are the receipts. The movers are here for the appliances. Oh, and one more thing." I handed my mother a separate envelope. "The electricity, water, and internet will be shut off at 8 p.m. tonight. I also cancelled the auto-pay for the mortgage and the property taxes. You are currently 30 days out from defaulting again. Since Kevin wants the basement so badly, he can take over the $2,000 a month payment." The chaos that erupted in that dining room was absolute music to my ears. Mia started screaming at Kevin, demanding to know how they were supposed to store her expensive groceries without a refrigerator. My mother started hyperventilating, crying that I was destroying the family. My father actually tried to block the front door, but stepped aside the moment my burly movers walked in with heavy-duty dollies. Within an hour, the basement was gutted. It was returned to the exact, empty concrete box it was before I spent my life savings fixing it. As the movers loaded the last appliance into the truck, I tossed my house key onto the kitchen counter. The lights above us flickered and died. The electricity had just been cut. I walked out of that house and never looked back. In the months that followed, reality hit them like a freight train. Kevin couldn't pay the mortgage. He didn't even have the money to get the utilities turned back on in his name. Mia left him and moved back in with her own parents. Without my income, the bank finally foreclosed on the house 6 months later. My parents had to downsize into a tiny, cramped apartment, and Kevin is back to sleeping on a friend's couch. They tried to call me. They tried to send guilt-tripping emails, but my phone number was changed, and my inbox was blocked. When you spend your entire life giving everything to people who only view you as a resource, cutting them off doesn't feel like a loss. It feels like taking a breath of fresh air for the very first time. They wanted to evict me from their house, so I evicted them from my life.